Welcome to Inside Santa Cruz. I'm Joyce Anderson, and we want to welcome you to our show today. And the title of our show is about community and culture. So we have two very successful community leaders here today, and I want to introduce our first one is Mayor Fred Keeley of Santa Cruz.
Joyce, thank you for having me on.
And we're also giving you a little tagline here. You're going to be known for building bridges and sharing our future here, so shaping our future. And also I want to welcome Stephen Kessler. Stephen is a poet, a journalist, an author, an interpreter, and an editor. I got all that down because I was so proud of all the things you've done and been reading some of your books. And also, you are year 2023. You've been nominated as Artist of the Year this year. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
What a resume. A hard act to follow, huh, Fred? I want to hear all about what you've been doing with your career.
I'll tell you, my wife Barbara and I had the great pleasure of being present when Stephen accepted that and then did a presentation of several of the works for which he had received that recognition. That was a wonderful evening.
So I'm going to be asking each of you two questions, and I'm going to start with the first question, and then I'll go to have Stephen have his first question, and so on and so forth. You see the run of it, so I'm not going to surprise you with anything. So Fred, as mayor, what advice would you give to people who are newly elected and coming into elected offices in our county and to be successful at what they're going to do?
Probably three things.
Okay.
One, don't forget the position that you are in relative to your constituents. I'm going to be very specific about a concept here. So long as an elected official keeps in their front of their mind, heart, and soul that they are the people's representative to the government. That's a good grounding, a good North Star, I think, for elected officials. Oftentimes, and it's not always, and there are many exceptions to this, but with lengthy service, sometimes you can see that elected official's perspective started going the other way, that they're the government's representative to the people, rather than the people's representative to the government. And so I think keeping that concept somewhere in your consciousness as an elected official is helpful, because there's a lot of pressures to turn that dynamic around the other way. It's somewhat easier over time to adopt that other view. And I think people who are really successful, Leon Panetta, Sam Farr, we're going to look at Gary Patton. I think of all people Marty Wormhout, folks who got that right. Whether I agree or disagree with every one of their, that's not my point here. I also think in terms of the concept of listening well, gets talked about a lot. I think how do you manifest that is be interested, not interesting. I think that's a helpful thing as an elected official in communication.
That sounds good.
Is to be interested in hearing, not just waiting to hear a few lines so that you can then reverse it and sort of, let me tell you the 25 things that I've done. Voters want to be truly, authentically recognized. And I think that helps. Those two together are pretty helpful. The third one's something Gary Patton told me back in 1988 when I was elected to the Board of Supervisors. And it sounds old now, but he said, return every phone call the day you get it, write back on every letter the day you get it, so the letter part. But we can do all of that in texting and whatnot. But he said that was another, I think, a part of that, staying connected correctly.
Yeah. Those are three excellent things to do. I mean, as the new mayor, and this is 4-year term you've been elected to, correct? So how do you, when you get into the meetings now, do you, to sort of keep track of all who's doing what and remind them? Do they ask you how should I behave? I'm sure they do.
No, they don't.
Oh, they don't.
My job is I'm not the school principal over there.
Okay.
I'm I'm the presiding officer and the one citywide elected official. What I try to do in that capacity is help them get their work done.
Right.
And they don't need my advice. Help them get their work done. And this is a council that can disagree without being disagreeable. We come at it from somewhat different points of view.
Right.
Not completely. Clearly, this is a very liberal city council. Our most conservative member is a liberal member of the community. Renee Golder is as conservative as it gets, and she's a very liberal person.
Right.
Conservative on taxes and spending, but social issues, all a heart as big as outdoors. The other end is Sandy Brown, a true, genuine, authentic progressive. But that spectrum, is not this wide, it's this wide. And so how we're getting work done, what they want to get done, I view my job largely as helping them get that done, because I share the same agenda largely. We want to increase affordable housing, we want to decrease homelessness, right? There's things we know we want to do that are clearly overlapping among all of us. What are the best, most effective, efficient things we can get done in those? So they don't need me to guide them. They need, I think, the degree to which there's need there, it's help them get their work done.
Yeah. Well, we certainly appreciate all the
thank you.
community service you get, that's for sure. So they're good answers.
Thank you.
Well, Stephen, of all the projects you've been involved in, can you give me which of the ones that you have been the most, excited about and was the most positive for you? To have a positive impact, how is that done?
It's so hard to say because, I've been in writing and publishing for 50 or 60 years now. So there's, I've done a lot of interesting things. The first thing that popped into my head was when I was living up on the Mendocino coast, excuse me, I started a quarterly literary supplement for the local weekly paper in Wallala called the Independent Coast Observer, and my publication was called the Redwood Coast Review, and it served as a newsletter of the local grassroots library when it was trying to raise money to build a new library, and we needed a new newsletter, and I was on the board of the library, and anyhow, I had a lot of experience in publishing even at that point. That was in 1992 or 93, or I lose track of the years. Anyway, so that was like a quarterly. What it amounted to was a literary newspaper. It was modeled on Sunday supplements that I had seen in my travels in Spain and Latin America, where literary writers would write essays for the weekly paper about cultural things, politics, the arts. So I started the Redwood Coast Review, and it lasted for 16 years. And in terms of cultural presence or impact, because there was nothing like that at all in Mendocino County. It was a lot of fun because I got to work with a lot of different kinds of writers, and they weren't just writers from the region. And our paper was distributed beyond the North Coast. It was distributed in wherever I could drive it, basically, because I was a delivery boy among other functional tasks. So more generally, and relating it to Santa Cruz, my profile as a writer in Santa Cruz, I was always a poet, but then I started writing for newspapers in the early 70s, and I've been involved in 5 or 6 different community newspapers here. If someone had told me back in the 70s and 80s that I would be writing for the Sentinel now, it would have been literally incredible, because the Sentinel was this very conservative paper, and all the papers that I wrote for were, more radical, progressive, alternative kinds of papers that were meant as an alternative to both the Sentinel and to the Good Times, which had started in the early 70s. So
and
yeah.
also to the San Jose Mercury News, which had a bureau here which wrote a lot about Santa Cruz. Lee Kornstrom,
Yeah, Lee Kornstrom was,
and Paul Rogers and others who were around, and Steve Levy and so on. And
right.
so there was a big corporate daily presence here at the
And there
time.
was, there's always been a lively media culture in Santa Cruz. I mean, ever since I got here, or a little bit after I got here in the late 60s. But so I think that in terms of my relevance in the community, I know I get some respect as a poet, but I've been very much engaged in journalism ever since I started doing it, which was surprisingly addictive. I had no idea I would enjoy it so much. But so I think I try to add an independent, sort of unconventional voice. I like. I mean, in some ways, my column, even in the Sentinel, but all through the columns that I've written for different papers, I've used it as a kind of experimental literary form where I try to infuse my commentary, whatever it's about, with my sensibility as a poet. I mean, I switch hats, but it's still the same person, and I'm writing with the same kind of engagement in style and in point of view and in imagination that I try to bring to the poetry.
I love every Saturday I take the Sentinel, and every Saturday you have the people write their opinions, and then you have the other side of it where everyone gives their feedback, and I really enjoy the people in the community want to give their thoughts on things also. Sometimes not so good, sometimes it's okay too, but you bring that out into people. A good journalist, I think, does make people think and give things some thought and things about what's going on in their life. So very good. I enjoy that. I'm so happy you're here to talk about it. I can't believe all the work you've done and the books you've done. I've had a couple of your books and reading them and really enjoying them. So
well, I love readers. I love people who receive what I have to offer, because especially as a poet, you're kind of on the margins, and you wonder, if you're 300 or 400 or 500 copies of your book sell, that's like fantastic, because that's as good as it gets for most poets. I mean, unless you're a brand name, there's a handful of people who become big national poetry stars, but most poets, I mean, I have a huge bibliography, but relatively few readers. So every reader, it makes every reader that much more important. And one of the reasons I love writing for newspapers is because there are people who would never pick up a book of poetry, but who, I can speak to in a way that, that means something to them.
Well, in one of your books, you have a little story you tell about the thrift store. And I've been reading about the thrift stores.
Oh, the thrift stores, yeah.
And there is a poetic feeling about when you go shop in stores. I know I love going in antique stores, and you wonder who owned that and what did they use this for, and you just love it, whether it's clothes or knickknacks or whatever. They all have a story to tell, so I love that. And people always come in my home and say, well, where did you get that? Well, in the antique store, it's around the corner or something, but it has a story, and I like telling the story, so, yeah. I want to get back to your second question. And so there is something, looking ahead, I want to know, what are Fred, your aspirations for Santa Cruz in the next few years? I know you're coming in, and there's so much going on. I mean, you have the building, and you have what our government telling you, we have to build more, we need more housing. And you're coming in at a time when everybody goes, where are they going to park? Where's the water coming from? How many more police are we going to have? And I went to one of your meetings, and everybody's asking these questions, and I said, my Fred, you're going to have a lot of explaining to do, I mean, how is it going to
Let's see,
happen?
I think that's a quote from Desi
I
Arnaz
was
to
gonna,
Lucille
I
Ball.
just almost said
I
you were
think
gonna
that's
have
where
a
that's
lot.
going.
I almost wanted to say that you'll have a lot of explaining to
That's
do,
what
Fred.
I thought. That's what I thought. Well,
Yeah.
but I find this fascinating, following concept. I'm going around knocking on doors, running for mayor.
Yeah.
I have a bit of an advantage in that for a lot of voters, I don't need to give them deep background. It's just, this is where I've spent my life and spent it in public spaces and public offices. So I could knock on the door and say, hi, I'm Fred Keeley. I'd love to be your mayor. What's on your mind? So immediately, I'm doing a people poll every door I knock on. 90+% of the people who I spoke with all over the city said two things. One, housing affordability. Number two, homeless. To get to number 3, 4, 5, you step off a cliff. Somebody may say, well, my park around the corner, or my, this or that, or something about something. But
Yeah.
those two were just far and away. I get elected, very grateful for this opportunity. I'm going to have 4 years. I start working on the issue. It's not like nobody'd been working on this. A lot of people have been working on both of these for a lot of time, for many years. The state, as you indicated, completely changed the game over the last 5 years. So I was a county supervisor when the political mandate and imperative was manage our growth so we're not overwhelmed by a combination of being next door to the most powerful economic engine in the world and a growing University of California. Manage our growth so we're not overwhelmed. We did that for 3 decades. Now I come in after a decade or so out of office. I'm now back in office, and the political imperatives completely changed. It's we need more housing, we need more affordable housing, we need to really get our arms around this homeless deal. We need to reduce that population by being, helping with this and this and this and this. Okay, now I'm in office. Let's operationalize that. Oh, well, I'm not sure I want any housing where I am, but you need to go get more housing and more affordable housing.
Sure.
Okay, how about we do it where smart communities do? We increase density and height in our current urban area to keep it out of neighborhoods. No, I don't think maybe you should do it that either. Right. Well, then, so here's the deal. We are going to be doing it in our downtown urban area, south of Laurel. We are going to be putting, I hope, 40 to 45% of what the state is requiring us to do in the next 8 years, downtown Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
And keep the pressure off of neighborhoods. And on homeless, we've reduced the homeless population with the cooperation of the county and our general fund expenditure on shelter, good work in the area of social services, increased assistance on mental health services, and so on. More of that, better coordinated and so on. Reduce the homeless population in 1 year by 29%.
Oh.
And we're going to do the next point in time count of the homeless population in early December, right within the next few days. And we're going to see, is that an aberration or is that a trend line? And how are we doing that? There's no more, you can drive all around the city of Santa Cruz now. There's not a Pogonip unsanctioned camp, Sycamore Grove, Ross, Benchlands, none of that.
Yeah.
People are in shelters, people are getting help that they need, and for those that are still unsheltered,
Right.
working with them to get them the help that they need. So this isn't some, we're rousting people, it's the opposite of that. We're going to where they are in the time that they're in need, when they're ready for it, and having the services and the help they need. Now we have much more to do, lots more to do, not just in terms of population, we have lots more to do. But I think that in response to housing affordability and homelessness, the city council it's not me, it's not that I did something heroic by myself, but we're all in harness together on those two issues.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on.
So the timing is really good. I mean, for all the building. So what about the people have asked about the Santa Cruz Warriors, the B team. Are they still going to be, you're building some apartments and things for them, or parking?
So let me be very clear about that.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
not building anything for them.
For them.
And there's not a penny of public money in their proposal for an arena.
Okay.
These are billionaires.
Right.
People who own the Warriors are billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to get a penny out of the city of Santa Cruz. They want to build an arena, build an arena.
Right.
Now, that's fine. Their business model says that what they would like around that is that they would like retail, commercial, residential. They want it to
okay.
be essentially, they like the idea of an entertainment district. The city also likes that. There's a huge market for folks in their mid-20s to mid-40s who want to live in a more dense urban area, who live in our city right now,
Right.
want to do that in more affordable housing with less parking, more public transit, more evening and nightlife, a really good idea. Healthy cities all over the country are doing that.
Yeah.
We don't have to become somebody else to do that. Stephen's here, one of the leaders in the art and culture of our community for the last half century. You want more art and culture? That's a form of art and culture. We're not going to get everything, but the arena is going to be designed in such a way. It's not a basketball court with something you can put on top of it. This is a multi-purpose professional arena that the symphony would love to get the heck out of the Civic. The Civic's a terrible place for them. They're not going to go build some arena. This is going to be designed with them in mind and with the arts and culture of Santa Cruz in mind. Not public money, private money.
Private money, yeah. I love hearing that. You know, the culture, to have a successful and a good community, you need culture in your community. You need an outlet for artists and musicians and places for them to go in the sports. So
If I could just say one thing about the Warriors. The Warriors, they don't need me to be their front man or something. The Warriors have become a beloved institution in a short period of time. I think, because I think there was a question about whether the Warriors could work in our town, because we're an individual sports community, right? You're a surfer, you're a mountain biker, you're a climber, you're a whatever, you know. So we have a University of California, but it's like division whatever, right? It's just one step above club sports, and I love the Banana Slugs. They're great, good athletes, but that's not what the deal. We don't have a Division I University of California here. So is this going to work?
Yeah.
And from day one till now, 12 years, sold out every. That says something about who they are in the community and what the community values. Same way it does the symphony and other activities in the community. I think it's somewhat surprised us as a community that this was embraced the way it is. And it shows no signs of slowing down.
Well,
so
it's exciting
I think
to
it's
hear
a good
that.
thing to retain in our community. And one other thing, if I just mentioned this, I'd feel bad if I brought up the Warriors and didn't mention this. We're a very liberal, progressive community. We really celebrate diversity. 90% of the players in the G League and the NBA are African American.
Right.
And it is fascinating to watch and get to know and work with these young men and see who they are and what that character is about. They are just uniformly incredible human beings in terms of their personal development, their connection to community, their connection to, they're very proud and aware of this moment and opportunity they've got. And they share that. They share that with school kids. They share that with the community.
It's bringing
That's
new
not a
life into our
bad thing.
community.
That's not a bad thing to have in
Yeah.
a community.
No, it
A
isn't.
small community that we're very progressive, but relatively white. And if we want to celebrate diversity, that's another way to do it.
Right. It's such a positive,
I think.
positive for our community.
Do most of the players live in the
Oh
area?
No, they live all over.
Yeah, they live all over the
So
place.
they just they
Maybe
travel
in
during the
mansions in
season to-
Hillsborough.
Yeah,
we don't know.
they stay here. They're based here during the season at a hotel.
But it's so wonderful to have that in our community, because it really has, and they have supported the community in different ways. So, Well, before we run out of time, Stephen, I wanted to ask you, looking ahead for your aspirations, what are you looking at ahead for you in the next few years? Do you have anything sitting back there? And
Well, I'm at a different.
Goals?
I've entered a kind of a late stage of my
Oh.
career, and my ambitions have narrowed considerably. I've had a really big portfolio of, as a translator, as a poet, as a journalist, as a critic, as an editor. I've done a lot of different kinds of things. And in the last few years, I've just decided I don't need to do as much. And basically what I'm doing, I put a lot of time into my column for the Sentinel. I really, that's like a really important aspect of my work now. And, I mean, it's always been, but in a way, because I've evolved from being this sort of radical voice in the alternative press to the voice of reason in the Sentinel, So it's an interesting evolution of my role in the community. So there's that, and I take it very seriously, and I'm very conscientious about what I publish. So there's that, and there's the poetry. I pretty much retired as a translator because I feel like I published I think, 16 books or something as a translator, and including some books that I think will have staying power, partly because the translations are good and partly because I've just had the privilege of working with some great poets of Spain and Latin America. And so I'm not translating, I'm writing poems, I'm writing a column, and I think my ambition is to keep doing what I'm doing.
We've got just a minute to go, and I just wanted to thank you so much, because now is the time to enjoy your life, and congratulations on all the things that you've done here. I want to thank our crew, and for the people that are being here today. I can't believe the half an hour is going by so quickly. And I do, before you leave, and I want to wish you both a happy holiday. And I got you each a pair of gloves.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
As a little holiday, pass that
Thank
on.
you so much.
I thought it'd be nice,
Very useful.
another cliche, baby, it's cold outside.
There we go.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Joyce, thank you.
You're welcome. It's just been such a delight to have you here. So, and I want to thank all the viewers. Thank you for watching Inside Santa Cruz. Bye now.